You're aware of your thoughts. You're aware of your feelings. You're aware of your bodily sensations. You're aware of what's going on around you, but without
Absolutely.
judgment. Without
Right.
judgment.
Where truth resides, done and shone, right by your side.
In a world that pulls your attention in every direction, mindfulness is the quiet act of returning to yourself. In this episode of Conversations for the Conscious Mind, we're talking about something simple: mindfulness.
Shauna, in this conversation, we explore what mindfulness really means, why it's one of the most effective tools for stress relief, mental clarity, and emotional balance, and how to easily incorporate it into our daily routine. Whether we are looking to improve focus, boost our moods, or simply breathe a little deeper, this conversation on mindfulness will help us to reconnect with our lives, ourselves, one present moment at a time.
Yes. You know, mindfulness isn't about clearing our minds or always being calm. It's about being here. Okay. So whatever is happening, without judgment, okay, it's just choosing to return again and again and again, really to the moment, to where, where we're at. Whether you're feeling peaceful or messy or heavy or light, it's literally all about being here, you know? Um, I really, I guess people think that mindfulness is a trend, and it's not. It's all about returning to yourself, to your needs, to um, truth of the moment. It also helps you to hear your intuition more clearly. It helps you to soften your self-talk. Um, and it creates, this kind of inner space where there's healing and clarity that can be, that can land so we can actually hear what our inner selves is talking about. Now, what do you think about mindfulness?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned about if it's like the newest thing and whatever. And the
Yeah.
reality is this is rooted in deep traditional Buddhist
Yeah.
theology, believe it or not. And it is based on their concept to be in the now. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you're in the now, again, you're present, which is the super important thing about mindfulness, is being in the moment, being in the present. You don't have to actively be working toward um, fixing it or
Mm-mm.
reacting. It's kind of the opposite. It's giving yourself a moment to be in the moment
Right.
and then process how you will eventually react, how you will eventually make a change if you have to.
Right.
It's more about accepting and acknowledging.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and again, accepting analogy is fascinating. I did some YouTube shorts, remember, not so long ago, and accepting and both of those topics were done very well, I thought.
Yes.
And again, you to accept and to acknowledge doesn't mean you have to give credence to or you have to give validity to. It's just saying, hey, I accept that
Right.
it is happening now,
Mm-hmm.
and I acknowledge that it's happening now. That doesn't
Right.
mean you're believing in it, you're whatever, but it lets you deal with the moment. And therefore, by being in the moment and fully engaged, you're aware of your thoughts, you're aware of your feelings, you're aware of your
Mhm.
bodily sensations, you're aware of what's going on around you, but without
Absolutely.
judgment. Without judgment. That's the
Right.
key. That's why the accepting any knowledge. I'm not
Hmm.
judging. I'm not even saying right and wrong because that's not my, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
I accept that this is what it is, and
Yeah.
I'm acknowledging that I'm in that present moment. But
Yeah.
again, if we can't step back
Mm-mm.
and we're so busy wondering, okay, now I've got to react to this, I've got to do it. By reacting, we have already divorced ourselves
Oh, yeah.
from the moment because now we're into our ego, we're into our id saying, what do I do for me?
Yes.
And I've forgotten that I'm not the topic. The moment is, the
Yeah.
situation is.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head when it comes to having awareness without judgment.
Yes.
It's really you're noticing your thoughts. You are noticing that those sensations as well, like how you feeling without even saying, okay, is this a bad thing or is a good thing? It's just you're noticing.
Yep.
And when you step into that space, everybody thinks that mindfulness is about, you need a perfect meditation space to notice these things. No, you don't. Mindfulness just meets you where you're at, through
Yes.
the chaos, through the quiet, through wherever
Mm.
that is in between. So awareness without judgment is, I feel like, the number one key thing to understand what mindfulness is about. And another thing that you said was about being present. When we really anchor ourselves in what is happening in that present moment, it also helps us to replay, or rather than replay what the past or rehearsing what the for the future, of what is happening. When you're just present and acknowledging, once again, you're being aware of your thoughts and how are you feeling, and what's really going on, when it comes to uh, understanding those key factors of mindfulness and having that understanding of it. A
It's
lot of
interesting.
times. Yeah, go
Also, go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, I was just going to say it's interesting because something you just said really triggered in me a
Yeah.
visual to help people understand this. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And walk with me down this way a little bit. As some of you may know,
Hmm.
I'm a licensed attorney, but I'm also an engineer. And as an engineer, we are in the middle of the problem solving. So therefore, we are involved with the work necessarily needed to
Yeah.
come with the solution. However, as an attorney, so the mindfulness doesn't work in that sense. But yet, fascinatingly enough, in the career as in law,
Hmm.
it triggered the one thing that is so much like a legal case, and
Right.
that is this: is that when you are practicing mindfulness,
Hmm.
you are not the witness, okay? Because a witness has their input on what they saw, how they processed what they saw, and
Hmm.
how they then took it in or whatever else, or what they did later on from it.
Right.
You are more like the camera. You are
Hmm.
the camera who takes the image, who sees it, and then replays it for everybody based just on what they see without any interpretation. And
Hmm.
so when we talk about mindfulness, in the process of instituting mindfulness, don't be the witness. Again,
Right.
don't be, don't be no judgment.
Right.
Again, acknowledging, accepting, just saying, hey, this is what it is. And
Right.
therefore, you are the camera. The camera just shows you what's going on. It
Hmm.
doesn't give a feedback on what how to interpret it. That's what we do, and that's what we
Right.
and that's when you process it later. Then you institute the things necessary. But again, the mindfulness, by being the camera, you
Hmm.
can take everything in clearer,
Yeah.
and it helps you to declutter the
Hmm.
the worry about what am I saying in the moment, how is it working, whatever. No, all
Yes.
you're doing is taking it in. You're what is happening in the moment, and then
Right.
again, so you don't have to worry, no decision making process necessary, no necessary decluttering of the processes that are happening, and therefore you can get a much better way of taking in all of the moment, and
Hmm.
therefore appreciating everything. And this also, it's interesting, and I don't mean to continue, but
Hmm.
this happens with arguments. It's amazing how we get
Yes.
into an argument with someone,
Hmm.
and because we are, if we practice mindfulness, probably the argument won't even happen. But if
Right.
it happens, the problem is we are so busy arguing our point
Hmm.
that we are not observing or listening sometimes to what they're saying. And even
Right.
sometimes when they start agreeing with us, we can't even get the fact they're agreeing because we're so into our own clutter into our own processes with our cortisol levels flying
Mm,
high, and now we're all
yes.
whatever. And so the
Yeah.
triggers have happened. And when those
Yes.
emotional triggers happen,
Mm-hmm.
we act impulsively, and therefore, again, we can't be in the moment. We're too
Yeah.
busy being part of the moment.
And I think that is so great of a way of putting it. You know, it's mindfulness is literally the practice of paying attention on purpose. Okay.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
Just paying attention on purpose
Yeah.
without even trying to, fix or even change what you notice here.
Hmm.
It also helps us get out of the autopilot. So when you say when it comes to an argument, if we pay attention of what's being said, there is no argument, you know. We won't react. We just actually respond to
Hmm.
what is being said. And that decluttering and everything, you are absolutely correct with that. Um, when we are mindful, we actually create space. We take away all that crap out, and those triggers and that response is totally different, you know. And it's actually how we meet ourselves, is how we see
Absolutely.
ourselves, what we are doing by being present. So I just think the practice of mindfulness is actually really, I love it, paying attention on purpose. You
Yes.
know, so um, let's talk
And
about
and
some ways to. No, no, no. Go
and
ahead.
and active listening. I
Yes.
mean,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that
Active
that's
listening.
super important because again, as but that is mindfulness. It's active listening. Again,
Yes.
because you're engaged in the listening, you're engaged
Mm-hmm.
in the moment.
Yeah.
Therefore, again, it helps us because we then can later kick in the empathy. We can kick in the
Absolutely.
compassion, and we can then communicate properly because we're not tied up in our emotions and our feelings
Mm-mm.
because we were able to take it all in. And think
All
about it.
in.
This is amazing because when we do this, think about it. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. My son come to me the other day, right? And
Uh-huh.
he listened to some of my previous posts on boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm not going to go too personal because I'll be roasted because Lord knows I get roasted all the time anytime I say something. But the point was is that in the boundaries he picked up information that was very useful, and I love that. But
Yes.
then I did something that crossed a boundary with him, which I didn't even know I crossed the boundary, right?
OMG. Uh-huh.
And he came and said, "Dad, you talk about boundaries, and I listened to those things. They were really good." And he said, "I wanted to have a discussion with you because I think you crossed the boundary with me."
Ooh.
And at first, I was ready to get my cortisol level flowing and my anxiety. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, and instead, I'm like, okay,
Okay.
what happened? And he
Mm-hmm.
told me, and I actively listened, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I allowed myself to just stay chill because I was divorced from the emotional moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I was accepting and acknowledging that he was reporting to me something he was going through,
Yeah.
his experience, not mine. So I didn't have to own it, but
Yeah.
that was his experience, accepting, acknowledging, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, he said, "You crossed the boundary. This is what happened, and this is how I took this." And we
Mm-hmm.
had a conversation, and I told you in advance, and I'm like, "You're right."
Yeah.
The first time when I said that, I tell you what, I almost broke my arm, patting myself on the back
No,
because I'm
right?
like, the old me would never have done that. I'm like,
Acknowledged it. Yeah.
oh, absolutely. Me wrong? Hell no. But you know what?
Right.
I listened to what he said. I
Mm-hmm.
divorced myself from the moment, even
Mm-hmm.
though there was reasons for having done what I did
Mm-hmm.
that didn't invalidate his experience. And therefore, when I accepted and acknowledged, it
Mm-hmm.
disarmed him. And you know
Yeah.
what? We had a conversation, a
Mm-hmm.
conversation after that
Not an
where
argument,
we no,
a
because
whole
I had divorced
conversation. Yeah.
myself from the emotion and just
Yeah.
listened.
Mm-hmm.
He then clearly stated his case.
Mm-hmm.
I acknowledged, you know what, you are right.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what happened. And this is what brought us to that point. But I should have been more fair to you to have a more direct conversation. And you know what? We walked away in a good space. And
Yes.
that conversation, I thought, damn, it could have gone so many different ways. But
Yeah.
because I was preparing for this, and because I had written about mindfulness in my book about affirmations,
Mm-hmm.
I put it to use. I'm like,
Yeah.
I've got to be in the moment. I cannot be
Yeah.
my angry self responding because somebody's telling me I'm wrong. No,
Mm-hmm.
I need to just be mindful that they have a position. I don't have
Yeah.
to agree with it,
No.
but I should acknowledge and listen. And I did.
Yeah.
And Sean, I
Yeah.
tell you what, it paid off. It paid off big time
Oh, yeah.
because we left that conversation in good standing.
Yeah.
Good
When you
standing.
learn to pause before you react, boy, that is major growth. You
Hell
know,
yeah.
that
At my age, it got something important too.
is,
I thought
that
I
is
wasn't growing anymore, but Lord have mercy.
that is a major, major growth. You better pat, you better take both hands and pat,
I
give
know I should have
yourself
cast on my arm because I was so busy.
right. Like, oh yeah, I did that. Walk away. I did that. What in the world? Like
Yes,
that is major growth. But it also shows to the person that voiced out what was going on with them. It was like, oh, wait, okay. But say it wasn't a conversation, just taking a pause before reacting to a situation happening, before reacting, like, okay, I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to inhale. I'm going to exhale. And I'm just going to say, all right, let me think of the clarity so you can respond with clarity.
exactly.
That's major growth right there. I'm proud of
Yeah.
you, my darn self,
So
knowing the
that leads us, Shauna. That now
Yes,
that again that's a wonderful segue, I think,
yes.
into implementation. How do
Oh,
we
yes.
implement it? Can
How
you
do we do
give
it?
us a little secret? Give us some secrets, then, Miss Shauna. Tell
What
us.
I just said, taking a breather, taking your, pull it in, take a
Focus
minute
too.
to,
Focus on the breath.
yes,
Yes.
there's nothing wrong. Now, some people don't acknowledge it, but I love doing it. 1 minute check-ins. Okay. You set your timer. You can do this 2 to 3 times a day if you want to. But whenever it goes off, pause. Notice your breath. Notice your body. Notice your surroundings. That is mindfulness. That is a check-in. Taking that breather, holding in the breath,
Absolutely.
and doing the inhales. Um, Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then do it again. That you resetting and you're being present in that moment.
Yeah.
Another thing you could do is walking. You
Yes.
gotta
Yeah. Mindfulness walking. Mindful walking. Yes.
mindful walking. Absolutely. I think that's a
Yeah.
great way of pushing it. Pushing that out there is like when you walk and be not listening to music, not listening to just taking that walk. Okay.
Yep.
You're listening to the birds. You're listening to um depending on where you're walking, be on the street or whatever. You listen to the car. You're just listening to your surroundings,
Mhm.
and you're taking in the air. When you do a mindful walk, you even noticing your posture. You
I
know,
was going
you
to say your body. Pay attention to how
yes,
your body feels. What are you
yeah,
thinking about the body? What are you thinking about each step that you take?
right. Like, are you hunched over? Are you like, are you too straight up? What is
Mhm.
going on? But really noticing what the body is going through, how you feeling. Like, wait a minute, I got a cramp in my arm, or
Mhm.
I got something going on with my knee. It's just noticing these type of things.
Exactly.
And then also grounding. You are one of the number one people that always say, take your shoes off. Go walk
Walk in the
in the
grass,
grass.
in the dirt.
Yes, in the dirt, in the sand, in the wherever.
Yep.
But grounding yourself
Yep.
and using your senses. Okay. What do you see? What can you touch? What can you hear? All of those things to help ground yourself,
Yeah.
I think. What else do you think?
Well, I'm gonna
Other,
loop back on one of the things you mentioned, and that
okay.
is when you're talking about your again the moment when you're breathing and thinking
Yeah.
about yourself and whatever.
Hmm.
That's when you do the body, I call it a body scan, which is something you kind of mentioned. You do the
Yeah,
body
the check
scan.
in.
You
Hmm.
mentally scan your body from head to toe. You
Yeah.
observe the sensations. You observe, am I feeling little tweaks? Am I feeling little
Hmm.
pains? Am I feeling little happiness? Am I feeling some air blowing on something, or is a hair out of place? Is my
Hmm.
arm in a very uncomfortable position? Sometimes we don't even know it until we realize. So that
Right.
body scan is a way of us connecting with our body. And most importantly, when you're body scanning head to toe, because often, unless we're jumping in the shower, and
Hmm.
that's when we're kind of scrubbing and we're paying attention, our body is just a mere vessel.
Yeah.
And if you're not paying attention to your vessel and an ailment pops up, say, God forbid, a lump
Hmm.
comes up, or something, and you're feeling, where did that come from? If you are not observing your body, if you are
Hmm.
not doing the body scans, you're not going to recognize that. Or
Hmm.
am I feeling something inside that I haven't felt in a while? And is this discomfort, and is it lasting? How long did it last? If we're
Right.
doing our body scans and we're doing the mindfulness of our physical body as well as our mental state, then
Hmm.
we are aware of how long that happened, because all that happened 2 or 3 days ago when it started, and now it's lasted this long. This is a problem.
Uh-huh.
That is a benefit to our physical and mental health, and also
Yes.
our pocketbook, because if it's an ailment that can be resolved quickly, we can save ourselves some money and time
You ain't
because of the
lying.
medical stuff. Another thing, though, that I thought as you were talking
Hmm.
is, you're talking about the different senses.
Yes.
Forgot my most important one is eating, because I love to eat.
Oh, yeah.
And believe it or not, there is mindfulness eating. And
It
what
is.
what I mean by that is, again, you slow down when
Yeah.
you're eating. You don't eat to ingest. You
Yeah.
eat to enjoy the moment, and
Hmm.
therefore you actually slow down. You notice the texture of
Yeah.
the food, the taste of the food, the smell of the food,
Hmm.
how it, when you machinate in your between the teeth, how's that feeling, and all these things. I mean,
Right.
all those things are, and when you do this, I love this, because when you do mindful eating,
Hmm.
the one thing that triggers are the emotional memories
Oh,
that
right.
flood back. If you're sitting there and you're eating some wonderful, um, like for me, Persian food. When I eat, I'll eat naan, and I'll eat some onion and some feta cheese,
Hmm.
and I'll wrap it in the naan, and that takes me back to my first date my spouse and I ever had.
Oh,
And
wow.
so when I bite into that, I'm not tasting merely non-onion and feta cheese.
Right.
I am remembering that moment. It changed my life 29 years ago. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
um, when we eat that, bite into, for me, I love to make fried chicken, and a lot of folks love my fried chicken. And when I bite into fried chicken, I don't taste my fried chicken. I taste my childhood. I taste my aunts. I
Yeah.
taste the country farm where I used to go.
Yeah.
I taste the Sunday visits.
Yeah.
So
I'm like
so
that with ice cream.
yeah,
Ice cream. When I eat ice cream, it takes me all the way back to my grandfather making ice cream for us on
yes,
these hot summer days,
yep,
watching that churn, with the ice and with the
yep.
vanilla, all of that, with the sugar, all of that. That takes me back. And that is my one of my core memories of spending time with him making ice cream
And
every
and what is
time.
that? And when that happens, it brings down your anxiety,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's such a wonderful memory. So your
Mhm.
cortisol levels are dropping.
Yeah.
You're focused a little differently, because you're like, what? I'm in a good mood.
Yes.
I'm feeling good. So
Yep.
so you're kind of like in a much more open state to even to
Hmm.
little issues, because
Yes.
so again, these are the benefits, folks. The benefits, that
Hmm.
emotional resilience. It reminds us that no matter what we've gone through in our lives,
Hmm.
those times remind us that we have gone from there through the rough time and back out.
Yeah.
So those good times remind us that it helps in a little way of saying, hey, we are resilient because we've gone through a lot of crap,
Yes.
and yet we're still here, and we
Yeah.
still remember those wonderful times. It also helps us sometimes
Absolutely.
with problem solving, because it's
Hmm.
fascinating if we are facing a situation, and we're processing things that we often are so in the moment, because we're not mindful. Again, we're
Right.
too emotionally involved. We can't step back and find a way forward.
Right.
But yet, if we do the camera again, we're looking at scanning everything and we're like, oh, that's the way forward. Oh, that's the way
Absolutely.
forward.
All
Otherwise, we're
right.
in the moment, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so these are just a few ideas. Focus and concentration. I mean, this helps with focus and concentration because again, you're coming at it from a different angle. And don't be
Right.
surprised if your sleep is improved because
Mm-hmm.
when you go to bed, you spent a lot of time in the moment, in the present,
Yep.
and you're not carrying somebody else's guilt, somebody else's, because people
Oh,
do dump guilt on us. You know what I mean? The
yep.
guilt and the pressure and everything else. No, no, I'm an observer, and if I'm not passing judgment, oh, that person was so bad today. I don't.
Yes.
They're not bad. They were themselves. They were
Yeah.
doing what they do. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
very
Right.
different. You don't carry the baggage, and therefore
No,
you sleep. In my opinion, you sleep better.
you do. I know I do, child. Mindfulness isn't about doing it right. It really isn't. Because it
Exactly.
can be whatever. It's just noticing, you know, that you left.
Yep.
It's all about noticing that you left, and it gives you that gentle way of choosing to come back to yourself.
Yep.
That's really it. So something is the reminder. If all you do is take one conscious breath today, that's enough. That is literally enough. That's the present. That's just you coming home. That's it. That's just you coming back into who you are. Um, and that is like the good energy
Mhm.
that you're putting back into yourself. It's just noticing what is happening, noticing um and where you are at.
Mhm.
So if all you do today is take a conscious breath, that will be enough.
And again, that's four in, hold for four, four out,
Yes.
and do it four times.
Yep.
Believe it or not, those four breaths,
That's
four
it.
breaths
Four.
can
And
help you be in the moment.
absolutely. The number four is about foundation. It's about grounding.
Mhm.
So I think that
Exactly.
is perfect for holding the breath for, inhaling for four, exhaling for four,
Absolutely.
and holding that for four.
Exactly.
Um, it's literally you doing a reset.
Yep.
So that's it.
So,
Okay.
folks, let's start incorporating mindfulness into
Yes.
our everyday routine, and you will be surprised at how liberating it can be to not carry
Yes.
other people's judgment, not carrying
Yes.
their water for them. You don't need to. You got your
Nope.
own. Don't carry
Mm-hmm.
theirs.
Got your
And
own
as we
water.
promised that, folks, when we started this, we promised that we would have a conversation about what mindfulness is. We would
Yes.
introduce effective tools to incorporate them in our daily routine, and we talked about how they would be beneficial to you. And I
Mhm.
think we delivered, Miss Shauna.
I think we did too, child. And with some extra. And with some extra.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
appreciate you listeners listening to our conversation, and I hope this conversation is impactful and motivates and inspire. Once again, take that breath to reset. Hold for four. Hold for four. Inhale. Four breaths. That's what you need. Four, four, four. Literally. I'm Shauna, and this is
Don. And we are Conversations for the
yes,
Conscious Mind. Thanks for joining us. Please help us grow our channel and our podcast by sending a message and letting other folks know that we
yes,
exist. Share us out there because I'm
yes.
sure a lot of folks would love and could use the information that we just delivered.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And check out our other episodes as well. We greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Thank you all much. Have a great one.
Yes.
Adios.
Where
Adios.
truth resides.